Okay, so today's lesson is on electronic utilities. So today we're going to look at what sort of electronics things that you're going to have to be expected to pay. Three of the big ones are a cell phone, cable, and internet. So now there are varying different price points for all three of them, and even some of them, like cable, you don't necessarily need to have. I've gone for periods of time without cable and just use Netflix and Hulu, or just your basic channels that you can get with any sort of antenna attached to your TV. Cell phone is probably a must. If you're going to have a job and stuff like that, you're going to need a cell phone. And internet, when you start to be on your own, you're going to need to rely on the internet for a lot of things, including looking for jobs and doing work-related stuff that you're not going to have to go to a Starbucks or a library all the time, every time you need internet. So we're going to look at what sort of things, what do those cost, and then calculate some sample problems in that. And then you're actually going to research your own cell phone, cable, internet companies, so that when you do your budget later on this unit, you'll have some idea of what the cost is going to be. So to start out with, I don't know why there are lines there, but you don't need to write anything for a cell phone and cable and internet in here. So one of the things that we're going to look at too, these are the objectives for today. These are the outcomes we're going to be covering. So you can expect to have an outcome quiz next class on this stuff. Being able to interpret piecewise functions, which we'll get to, and then calculating your bill using piecewise functions. So the first thing I want you to do is name at least 3 different companies that provide services for each of the electronic utilities. So find 3 companies, major companies that are cell phone providers, cable providers, and internet providers. So go ahead, pause the video, take a minute, and write down at least 3 for each one. So here is the list that we came up with our Black Day classes. So obviously there are more. The big 3 are Verizon, AT&T, and Sprint, but you also have T-Mobile. There's Virgin Mobile. There's the Cricket and Boost Mobile and all that stuff. So back that. For cable, we have Comcast, which is Xfinity, AT&T, and DirecTV. There's also Dish Network along that lines too. As far as internet goes, again, Comcast and Xfinity, same thing. AT&T and Verizon does provide internet as well. Now, what you need to do for yourself is do some research on these companies. These companies actually do, even though they're all big companies, they vary tremendously in price points. So you really need to look at what sort of thing you want. As far as cell phone, Verizon and AT&T are going to spend the most amount of money. If your priority is that you have a signal every single spot you are in this entire country, then you're probably going to want to go with Verizon or Sprint. They have the most reliable network across the country. If your issue is money, then you pick Sprint or T-Mobile. Those are going to be the cheapest ones, those still providing pretty good reliability across the country. As long as you're not out in the middle of the woods or in the middle of nowhere, you should have a cell phone signal with Sprint or T-Mobile. Now, if you choose an even smaller one like Cricket or Virgin Mobile or Boost Mobile, you're really going to limit yourself to being in the city. If you leave the city at all, you might not have cell phone reception. Cable, again, it's all about what you want. If you want all the bells and whistles, you're going to get DirecTV. DirecTV has everything from packages, sports packages, to all the movies, all the stations, more stations than any other provider. But you're going to pay for it. It's generally the most expensive over the life of the contract, since you have to sign it to your contract. If you're looking for cheap, you're going with Comcast. Comcast is the cheapest of all of them. Plus it's in the most places as far as your cable providers go. Internet. Internet, you're going to have to take into account several things. What are you going to do with the internet? If you're looking for high-speed gaming or streaming, if you're planning on streaming high-definition movies over the Wi-Fi, or in online gaming, you're probably going to want to look for internet that is very reliable as well as very fast. And if that's the case, you're going to go with Comcast. It's a little more expensive, but it does provide the most reliable and fastest internet. AT&T is also very good and can sometimes be cheaper, but the problem is that it runs over the cell phone line. So it is sometimes, actually probably most of the time, not as fast as Comcast, and it relies on a cell signal. Verizon, not very fast. It's probably the lowest speed of all of them. But again, if price point is your priority, then you go with whatever's cheaper. So what you're going to do here is you're going to actually do some research in the area that you chose to live in and find an actual cell phone company, find an actual plan, and find an actual price per month. So you're going to look up plans for one person. Keep in mind, I know that some of you pay part of your cell phone bill, but it's probably part of your family's cell phone bill. What you're going to do is find out what does it cost for you to be by yourself. You're not going to be under the umbrella of your parents your entire life. So what is a cell phone going to cost you for one person? What is a cable going to cost you? What is internet going to cost you? Now, if you choose not to use cable, that's fine. You don't have to put anything there. But if you do Netflix or Hulu, that's going to count. So just write down Netflix or Hulu and then what it's going to cost per month to have those instead of cable. So that's the first thing we're going to do. The second thing you're going to do is look at piecewise functions. Piecewise functions, look, if you go over to the next page, look like that. That's what a piecewise function looks like. Piecewise functions, what that means is that there are different pieces to the function. The most common piecewise function are like cell phone bills. So nowadays, cell phone bills deal with everything's unlimited. People always have unlimited calls, unlimited texts, but the one thing that's not unlimited most of the time is data and data usage. So what happens is you might buy a plan, like for example in number one, the $40. That $40 is your base price for the plan, and it comes with 5 gigabytes. So what this piecewise function is telling you here is that it is $40 if you use less than or equal to 5 gigabytes. So you get 5 gigabytes with your plan. Now, if you go over 5, like 6 or 7 or 8, it becomes a whole new function. So to figure out what your bill is, you need to look at how many gigabytes you used, then figure out what function you need to use, and plug that in for X. That is what a piecewise function does. It has different pieces to it. So if you use, for example, this is Cellular One, which is an actual phone company. Cellular One phone company has many different plans. The My Choice plan has a basic charge per month, which we already decided was 40, which includes a certain amount of free data, which is less than 5 gigabytes. There is a charge for each additional gigabyte of data. The piecewise function below gives Everett's bill cost. What is the cost of the phone bill if Everett uses 3 gigabytes? Well, since 3 gigabytes falls below 5, then we know we're going to fall on the 40 range because he didn't go over. So the answer for the first one is just, let me do a little bit different color. Okay, so the answer here is just $40 because he is under the limit of 5 gigabytes. Now, what about example 2? What if he uses 7 gigabytes? Now, 7 gigabytes puts us in a different area here. So since it's over 5, we want to look at this one. So this is our new function we're going to use. So all we're going to do is take 7 and plug it into X. So if I write this out, 40 plus 12 times 7 minus 5. Well, 7 minus 5 is 2. So I have 40 plus 12 times 2. Okay, well, 12 times 2 is 24 plus 40 equals $64. So if he were to use 7 gigabytes of data, going 2 over, his bill is not going to be 40, it's going to be 64. So that's how we use piecewise functions. Now, using the same piecewise function, it says now Everett is presented with an unlimited plan. Okay, so someone's come up to him and said, hey, you know what? Do you want the unlimited plan? It's $100 per month. Now, if he's using 7, we know that it's 64. So that doesn't make any sense for him to use the plan if he only uses 7 gigabytes of data, because he would just pay $64, whereas unlimited is $100. Now, what if he uses 9 gigabytes of data per month? Well, let's recalculate this and see what 9 is. So we're going to calculate that with 9. So 40 plus 12 times 9 minus 5. 9 minus 5 is 4. 12 times 4 is 48. So plus 48 equals 88. So even if he uses 9 gigabytes of data, it's still less than $100 per month. So does it make sense for him to use the unlimited plan if he only uses 9 gigabytes? No, because it'd actually be cheaper if he used 9. So the question is, how many gigabytes of data is needed to break even? So what would he need to use if they were going to be the same? So what we can do is just take you can figure out what it's increasing by per month. Okay. We have 7. At 7 it was 64, and then 2 gigabytes he increased. So he had 7, he went up to 9, and it went from 64 to 88. So 7 to 9 is an increase of 2 gigabytes. So he went up 2 gigabytes, and his gigabytes, and his price point went from 64 to 88. That's an increase of $24. So 2 gigabytes went up $24. So you can figure out the price per gigabyte. Since 2 gigabytes went up $24 by dividing by 2, you get that the price increases at $12 per gigabyte. So when does it need to break even? When does it need to be 100? Well, I just keep adding 12 until I get to 100. Well, 88 plus 12 is 100. So it happens to break even at 10. By adding one more gigabyte, that makes it 10. 10 gigabytes. If I put 10 in the equation, I'm going to get 100. So at 10 gigabytes is when it breaks even. So 10 gigabytes is the answer to the final part. And then the last question here. This is also a piecewise function, just in graph form. Notice how it's one function up until a certain amount, and then it goes a different way for everything above that. That's a piecewise function as well. And you can see it here. So Next Text charges $19 for a texting plan with 250 text messages included. If the customer goes over 250 messages, the cost is 12 cents per text message. So it's not really anything you need to know, but because it's right here already in the piecewise function. So it's $19 up until 250. If they go over 250, it follows this new function here. There's also an unlimited plan for $45. So how do we know when they're going to be the same? Well, if I know that the unlimited is 45, I know the unlimited is 45, and then this equation over here is 19 plus 0.12 t minus 250. Oh my gosh. All I need to know is when does this equal this. So all I have to do is actually set them equal to each other. If I want to know when the unlimited plan equals the regular plan, I just set the unlimited plan equal to the regular plan, and then just solve for t. So we can do this by subtracting 19 over to the other side. So now I have, what is that, 26? So 26 equals 0.12 times t minus 250. Now I can distribute here. So I have 26 equals 0.12 t, and then 0.12 of 250, I believe, let's see, maybe 30, something like that. Let's see, negative 250 times 0.12, 30, yeah, negative 30. So this is negative 30. So now all I gotta do is add 30. So I have, oops. So now I have 56 equals 0.12 t, divide by 0.12, t equals 466. Well, if we round it, it's 467. So what that means is, let's see, messages. So what that means is in order for the break-even point, you're going to need to text 467 messages. So if you go over that, then obviously you want to use the unlimited plan. But if you don't text 467 messages a month, then you'll want to use the regular plan. That's all that means. So that's that. Your assignment is to do the problems, the practice problems, on the practice in Canvas. So go to Canvas, Cycle 9, open up the practice, and do those problems. Don't worry about the other links. The building the budget and where you're going to live thing, we'll do that in class next. But so you're just doing the practice problems. I think there's 4 questions. That is your e-learning assignment, and it's expected that that's what you have completed by the time I see you on Friday. We're going to go over some of those questions, and I hopefully you've at least attempted to do those problems. Any questions? Send me a message over Canvas. I'm available for office hours during the e-learning day between 1 and 3, so you can feel free to message me or email me during that time, and I'll get back to you. Thanks.